Thank you for attending this meeting. Item 1 is apologies for absence. What apologies do we have?
We've got apologies from Councillor Parkinson, Councillor Gooch and Councillor Turner.
Lovely, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests? No. Thank you. Minutes of the meeting held on the 2nd of March. Do we agree those as a correct record?
Agreed.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Item 4, digital strategy update. Glyn.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to take us through a couple of documents, albeit a little bit high level, a little bit briefly, and hopefully you've got them in front of you. And first, I'd just like to put on record my thanks to the department and to our former BTLS leadership team for all the work over the last year, which has been a very tough year, as I'm sure it has for many departments. And we'll come on to some of the bits of work that we've done in that last year shortly. So the paper in front of you is going to cover some of our key projects, and within those key projects, really, we'll talk a little bit about how our workforce has changed for the as a result of COVID-19 as much as anything, and Lancashire County Council's response to how we've had to work through that. And that has helped us focus on some of the fundamentals of IT, including our network, our equipment, our productivity suite, and things like that. And then how we move our documents around in the council. And there's a little nod to that in a few minutes. We'll probably go over some of our really important projects, and Microsoft Office 365, the network infrastructure, and a little touch on Oracle Fusion, which is the replacement for our R12 solution. And at the back of your pack, there is also a slide pack that not only covers some of those things I've just talked about, but really gives some details into how we've managed the transition from BTLS to an internal department we've called our Lancashire County Council's Digital Service. That in itself has been a very significant piece of work, especially for myself and Gabby. We'll be very happy to answer questions if you have any on that or on any of the components in today's conversation. So in terms of those key projects for COVID-19, there have been many projects that were spun up as a result of COVID-19. We think just over 60. And you may recall back this time last year, we were talking about things like temporary body stores, and whilst that may sound like a warehouse and some cooling, it does involve IT to make things like that work properly and efficiently, or you'd be back to clipboards and pens and paper, and we wouldn't know what's what. So things like that you might not think of, and you'll see that thread throughout some of the projects. I don't think of it as a digital project. But it's very hard to find a part of our council these days that works efficiently without having a digital service underpinning it. So that was one of our projects. We helped particularly with our registrar's service, help them modernise to that new way of working from home, as we did most of the council. But some of these services we call out because they needed particular help. We had a big surge, and this was very much with our partners across Lancashire, the unitaries and the districts, in coming up with a track and trace solution. Notwithstanding what central government did and the private sector, local authorities working in partnership with each other made a big impression on how the country did its early tracking and tracing. And we had a nice project we worked on together with our partners. And one of the things that was, I suppose, foremost in those challenges were around sharing data, and the data integrations. Probably the projects that had data integrations involved were probably in the double figures, and how we shared data with both the NHS, with Public Health England, with adult social care colleagues, providers, and with the other councils was significant. And then there's some of the very basics, you know, how do our citizens and our residents across Lancashire connect with the council in a way they used to pop in and visit us. We had a surge of online form type work, which you'd probably expect. A little bit of routine, but very necessary to providing that continued service to our residents. We had a workforce that had a mixture of devices. We had a lot of desktop computers and a lot of laptop computers. But working in the new way that we did very quickly, we had to ramp up the number of laptop users and quickly scale down the number of desktop users. And that was supported by the council for our corporate colleagues, and we issued around another 1,850 devices, laptop devices. And we also helped our children in Lancashire work at home as well as our staff. And there were various funds that supported giving laptops to children, but the council itself supported them to the tune of 1.47 million, issuing 3,350 laptops to the children of Lancashire. When it comes to agile working, we did a few things to support this, not just the new devices. There was scaling up how our colleagues connect from home to the council, and that just takes place in our data centre, but is important. And colleagues up and down the country struggled a little bit with that, but to BTLS's credit, they got us ready for that very quickly, and we were able to have that working from home solution for all staff who needed it. The number of active users is probably worth shouting out, because when you're talking about the fourth biggest council in the country, it's significant in size this. So we had over 8,500 colleagues who were connecting at home. Most of those, after we purchased those extra laptops on laptop computers, are using an always-on connection, and we've delivered a pretty much a seamless working environment for our colleagues, and received some nice accolades from them, because our job is really to help them do theirs, and we've had some sensible success on that one. But then there's the non-digital side of our world, you know, the traditional post that flows around the council, or the printing bits of paper that flow around the council. We've taken the opportunity that COVID presented us to accelerate what was already quite an aggressive path to make this a more digital solution and to modernise it, make it more streamlined and efficient. And we have now some 95% of mail that arrives at the council being opened in our post room and being scanned and routed to our colleagues that way. And if you think the alternate to that is somebody pushing a wire basket around, you can see how that not just modernises us, makes more efficient, but actually makes that working from home a complete possibility for departments that would rely on internal post. And similarly with post leaving the council, there was a significant amount of that being done and fulfilled in pockets around the council where printing will be done by departments. That's been migrated en masse really to our post room to be printed, enveloped and fulfilled in a I suppose I call it a higher professional way. Because of that, it's cheaper for the council as well, because the charges we pay for postage are significantly less when we have mail prepared in a professional way. Just coming through the document, it calls out some of our major projects now. Office 365. So working with BTLS, working with our change directorate, our communications colleagues, and with partners, we were able to deploy Office 365 to all our staff and to all our members in what was getting close to record time. We worked with Microsoft themselves on this project, and they said to us that they hadn't done anywhere this big in the public sector in such a short piece of time. So I think it reflects some of the pressure we put on ourselves to keep the pace going, and the momentum going, because quite honestly, the rewards and the benefits that come at the end of this kind of project, and now we have a new modern way of working that's there for us all. So some proper good results there. In the process of getting ready for that, we did an awful lot of housekeeping. So we upgraded our operating system to the very latest version of Windows 10 from an older version of Windows 10. We prepared a lot of our back-end infrastructure to be able to take the new solutions, and we sorted out some security as well, which is always important to do when you're changing how your employees work. You open up new ways of working, you inevitably open up new threats to the council's infrastructure, and we took a lot of care in protecting them as best we could. When we do return to the council buildings at some point, the digital service, as I said, props up an awful lot of the ways we work. And the thing that props us up is our network. And our network had become very close to end of life, and some components a little bit past the final supportable date. So we commissioned some months before the start of our pandemic, we commissioned a new network solution, and it will run for a few years. This one, it's not a quick project to replace the components of our network, but we have started off on some of our public-facing areas, and we're calling out in our report here today that we've done all our libraries, and we have also, and this is really a real strong connection to our digital strategy, which talks about working digitally with partners. We've also deployed something called GovRoam and GovWiFi. So these are two techniques, or two capabilities, whereby we can go to other public sector buildings, be it local government, NHS, central government buildings, departments, or they can come to us, and we can use each other's network in a very secure way. So it facilitates that collaboration, that joint way of working. Sometimes facilitates those inspections if it's Ofsted, or if it's a Care Quality Commission or colleagues like that. They'll come in, they'll join us at Lancashire, and they'll have a very seamless way of working. And similarly, when we go off-site to visit the local councils or departments, we can connect back in very seamlessly to our own IT services and experience a very stronger solution. If I finally bring us to Oracle Fusion, Oracle R12 is the solution today that runs our financials and our payroll, and Oracle R12 comes to the end of its life at the end of this year. So we call this an ERP system, an enterprise resource planning solution, and it's about as big a piece of software as you can get. It kind of props up the whole of the back office of an organisation, and in our case of a county council. Changing that is significant, and we're in progress with it now. These type of projects notoriously run late and run over budget across public and private sector, but we are working as best we can on this project, and we've built a strong team around us. We are working in partnership again. Almost everything we do is in partnership, and we have schools who are very integrated to our partnership here. We have the Fire Authority, and we have Lancashire Constabulary, all users of our back office solution here, and we're working as closely as we can to make the project a success. There is, of course, over this last year, the business as usual that's been taking place. So the support calls to the service centre continue as they would normally, and actually, even though I say it's normal, people aren't able to pop in the same. So swapping out a broken laptop now involves couriers, like in a way it never used to. Getting people ready to start work at the council, and new starters. It's a new experience. It's one that's come with extra costs and extra parts to the process. But we've adapted those as best we can, and we continue to do the fulfilment of those requests. In the report, you'll see there are some numbers, some are calls into the service centre, calls to our core business system colleagues, really significant And what I take from that is how critical the service is to helping the council be a modern, efficient, effective council. There's some numbers also there just reflect that the small bits of project work we've been cracking on with, and the bits of work that go on in our education side of our team, all significant, all on a scale actually as big as anywhere in the country, no doubt. And then at the end, there is at the end of our report, there's just a little bit of a nod to some of the statistics in terms of how much calls are there. If you want to have a look at those, and if you, I would probably find myself inviting you to pop in and see us at any point about now, but we're not there very much. You know, we are all working at home as best we can. There is a small component of our colleagues in Lancashire where we have to be on site to either work on the physical computers in the data centre, or for a couple of other reasons around networking and things like that. But most of us are as we all are, working remotely. But the offer will be there as soon as we're back, if anyone wants to come and have a tour. I think that takes you through the highlights of the reports, Chair, but I'd be very happy to field any questions.
Thanks, Glenn. That's excellent. Did you want to add anything at this stage, Gabby, or should I invite questions? You're okay? Okay. Thank you. I've got Carl.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Going through the equipment where we've got the active accounts, doing the figures, there's approximately from the active accounts and the PCs, 499 accounts short. Do we know where they are?
It's a good observation. So there are not all of our colleagues who are on active accounts at the moment. So there are some machines that are there to help for activities. So very recent in my mind from last Friday is we've got some ready for the election to help with our election effort. So they become less of a person's machine, more of a functions machine sometimes. There's some colleagues we've got who are not active IT users, but still have some hardware attached to them. So maybe like our maternity, paternity colleagues, we disable those in our Active Directory until they were at a point in time where they were back in the office. Similar with some long-term sick colleagues. Gabby, have you got anything extra to add on that one?
No, you've covered most of it there, but there are occasions where we know there's laptops in cupboards that aren't being used, but they do get disabled at the end of 3 months if it hasn't been used to log on to, so we can re-enable them if needs be. But some people do have 2 devices. They might be at home with one now, but we know there are things in the office and in cupboards, and it's where one of the plans going forward is to introduce an asset management system that enables us to get better handle on where the equipment is and who's using it.
Yeah, thank you. Do you want to come back on that, Carl? Are you okay?
Yeah, that's a bit frightening, that, Jeff.
The number is.
Yeah, the number is, and the fact that we've got computers in cupboards and all over the place that we don't actually know where they are. I find that rather concerning, shall we say, that things could go missing and nobody knows that they've actually gone missing.
Yeah. Glenn, you've got your hand up to come back.
Yes, thanks, Chair. So if we wind the clock back a few months, officers having more than one device was not that uncommon, if I'm honest. We recognise this is not where we want to be. So Gabby and colleagues have prepared a single device policy, and we have pushed that through our policy governance, and that's now been adopted by the council. So that's a step in the right direction. Now it comes to living and breathing and enforcing that policy. Gabby's right. We're a couple of weeks into our new service now. In our old BTLS core business systems days, we didn't actually have any technology to help us here. But we're looking to deliver a strong asset management solution going forward that can help bring that number down to something a little bit more respectable.
Yeah. Okay, Carl, you still got your hand up, Carl. Is that coming back.
Oh, sorry, Jeff. Just mesmerised then when Keith suddenly disappeared into the fountain.
Yeah,
I'll put my hand down
absolutely.
now.
Yeah. Are there any other questions or comments? Peter?
Yes, thank you. I'll just preface this by apologising. My router downstairs went and I missed about 5 minutes of your presentation, Glyn. So you might have actually already covered this. So apologies for that. My question was about licenses. When we had a conversation, it must be about 18 months ago. I remember one of the things that in my old life was dealing with software licensing. It was always an issue as to whether you've got the right licenses, the over licensing and the under licensing of different things. And I noticed on one of the soccer team deliverables that was identified as one of the action points, and it's all signed off and all dealt with. I suppose my question is did you find that we were paying too much for licenses that were there before, and therefore we covered some costs, or conversely, are we now up to date with licenses in such a way that we're actually having to expend more money for those licenses? It's just that balance of what was there before and what after your audit that you've got that we've got now that we're up to date.
Thank you, Councillor Bucket. Fantastic question. If colleagues want to follow along, the page 20 of our report is a slide that shows outcomes. And I'll just talk about that just for a couple of minutes. There are 10 items on that page, 10 outcomes. So as we left BTLS, we set ourselves some, how do we know we prepared properly sort of outcomes. This is not just the type of service we wanted to be thrown at us on the 31st of March and catch on the 1st of April. We had to provide strong reassurance we'd done everything we could to prepare Lancashire County Council properly. And you're absolutely right. There is a chance, and number 8 referred to this, that Lancashire County Council might not have had the right licences. So that one was a particular one for me. I was thinking of, if we're under licensed, if we haven't bought enough, then there could well be a little bit of an issue here. And if suppliers spot you haven't had enough, then they can come up with a bill, and they can come up with a bill to the point where you, from however many years ago, you could last prove you did have enough. So we could have found ourselves 100 licenses short of some product, and we might needed to pay for that for the last 7 years, and numbers like that can very quickly become very big. So it was a real important one to have on our list of things we did properly in the transition. Now, you talked about, did we find we had enough, or did we have too many? That's a good second part of the question. We were probably about spot on. Okay, that's hard to believe, but because you're never completely accurate. But this was actively managed by BTLS. In many ways, it was their risk to license us properly, and they recognised that, so they delivered on it well. What we found, forgive me, as we novate the contracts that were with BTLS, between BTLS and the suppliers like Oracle or Microsoft or OpenText or companies like that who would work with Lancashire through BTLS, while we've novated them to have contracts direct with us, sometimes the price will have gone up. So the price goes up sometimes just because you're changing it and it's an opportunity to reflect prices. Sometimes it's gone up because we don't quite have the buying power of BT, and BT are a big organisation, and you can see that in some of our contracts. But sometimes when prices don't go up much, well, novating them to us, it takes out the profit that we know BT took as well. So on balance, I don't think we've found anything we needed to get too worried about. We've made sure as everything was migrated, it was done accurately at the point in time. So a few true ups and true downs, as we might refer to them. And going forward, we're in a financial strong position that we can look after this in a proper managed way.
Thank you. Gabby, your hand went up. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, it's probably worth saying that we did uncover a few bits of anomalies where we had the wrong sort of licenses, and our documenting system was on it. But we've taken the opportunity to correct everything, so we're in a very good, strong starting point, really.
Yeah, that's good because as Glyn said, backdating some license costs can soon add up to a big lump of money, can't it?
Very
So,
much.
yeah, so it's really good. Are there any other questions or comments? I don't see any hands. Can I just ask a point of detail, Glenn? You on the Oracle, you mentioned Lancashire Constabulary. There was a bit of a problem with offshore issues with that. Are they resolved?
So should I recap the problem for councillors who might not understand it?
Benefit of others, yeah.
So there's some significant parts to this project. Like I said, it's about as big as any organisation ever does.
Yeah.
One part was doing the data migration and the data loading from our old system to our new, and we have a partner who tended to do that work and won that tender. And they were going to use offshore resource. Okay, so resource basically based in India to help do some of the transaction activity. Now that's okay for us in terms of for our information governance. I know we probably all like them all to be employed in Lancashire, but unfortunately that doesn't always happen. But it wasn't okay for the police. So they were more concerned about the security status of our suppliers who could look at the police records. So we're effectively talking about names and addresses and dates of birth and next of kin and bank accounts of serving police officers or retired police officers. So they wanted a higher threshold of security clearance on the computer programmers, basically. And that's not uncommon. So this exact project has just been done in Merseyside, and they had a little bit more of a higher threshold of onshore resource needed instead of offshore. So that change really has increased some of the cost of the project. I think you all know our finance director Neil is looking after the finances on that project as he's the sponsor of it anyway. So he'll say he's got them all sorted. Quite what the finite details are, I'm not quite sure. But it did cause us a challenge when we had that requirement that came later on. Our resource that we had planned to do it couldn't do it, and we had to find some new. But we're doing a fair bit more ourselves to keep the price down.
Yeah, and I'm sure any extra costs as a result of that particular need will be passed on to the people who required it. In this case, Lancashire Constabulary.
I think that is Neil's plan.
Yeah, absolutely. Carl.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a bit of forward thinking. When we go for the unitary status, how will this affect all the other local authorities? Will it be easy enough to incorporate them all, or will you have major difficulties trying to link everything together?
Good question.
I think the short answer is it doesn't matter what the future model of our organisation is. It's going to be easier, whatever the requests are on us, if we're on a modern platform. Now, Oracle supports most of the big businesses in the world, I think, and they merge, they demerge. It supports lots of councils. I think they change shape and size a bit less frequency, but it's not uncommon to bring two departments, two organisations, two companies together that were run on two HR systems and put them onto one, or bring five together and put them onto one, and then break that up into two different ones. So all those kind of merger, demerger activities are better done on a modern platform. What we're moving on to is a modern platform, potentially a best-in-class solution for running your HR and finances. So I've got confidence that we'll be in a good place, but it'll still be a tough project whenever it arrives.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that okay, Carl? Do you want to come back?
Would there be a cost implication in it?
We pay for the licenses on what we call a subscription basis. So we pay for however many thousand we need per month, per person, if you like, per person per month. So if we ended up needing a few more, our bill would go up. If we needed a few less, it's a little bit harder to true the price down, but we're only on contract at the fixed number we've got for 3 years, which basically we can't probably get very far in terms of any kind of local government reorganisation within that period. So after that, I think we move to more of a rolling 12-month type licence model, and that will mean we are quite agile and well placed to change shape and size. I'm not making any assumption that if we do change shape and size, Lancashire Digital Services will be the provider and others the consumer. We might not be in that position, but whatever the future holds, we'll be in as good a place as we can to have that agile conversation.
Yeah, I think that last point is the really significant one, Glenn. Whatever happens, we'll be in a better position to deal with it than we would otherwise have been. I mean, and on that score, I mean, it would in many ways be remiss of me not to say there's been a massive financial investment into IT, and the county we've been fortunate that we've been able to do that, notwithstanding all the other financial pressures that we've faced. And I just say to Carl, much of that is because we sorted out the £200 million deficit we inherited in 2017, Carl. But you're not surprised that I make that point.
You're not electioneering, are you, Jeff? not Jeffrey Driver electioneering. No.
Me
Not
electioneering? No, absolutely not. Never.
It'd be wrong if you didn't get it in, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. I don't see anyone else with questions or comments. So look, I think to Gabby and Glenn, we've got to say on behalf of us all, really well done. I mean, you've made an extremely difficult operation and task run very smoothly. I mean, obviously there've been some hiccups as there is in every major change that's taking place, but really well done. You've done us proud. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
That's the end of the meeting. But I need to formally say when the next meeting is. So he said, quickly trying to find the agenda. Yep. The next meeting will be on the 1st of July. So really, it just remains for me today. As you know, this is my last meeting. It's Albert's last meeting as well. So I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been involved, members as well, because I think right across party we've all been determined to do the best for the county council, and there's been some really good meetings. In fact, virtually every meeting's been a good meeting. We asked some challenging questions and we've moved things forward for the benefit of the people of Lancashire. So thank you all, members, for your contributions. But more than thank you to the members, I want to say thank you to the officers, because it's been a really good, worthwhile committee. We've achieved a lot, and I hope we haven't been too difficult to deal with. But thanks very much to all of you, and I wish you all the best for the future. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye
Jeff.
now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.